Growing up, I used to watch the NFL films top 10s, and one of my favorites to learn about was the Nigerian Nightmare. I think he has a super dope story, in the especially back then in the NFL when there weren't a lot of people, a lot of foreign people, either involvement and or interest with the NFL. Somebody being able to do the way he do and have this story is dope. So this is a football historian. He's gonna break it down a little bit for us in a different way. So make sure y'all follow him.
He didn't pick up a football till 23, yet he'd quickly become one of the most feared men in the NFL.
This 6 foot 1 inch, 260-pound running back is known as the Nigerian Nightmare.
David Craig, hands off Christian, big hole, 5-5, whistling his way to the 2, to the 1, he's hit for a touchdown! I don't believe it! I do not believe it! The Nigerian Nightmare steamrolling, he would not be denied!
But nobody feared him at first. In fact, they all laughed. He couldn't read a playbook, didn't know the rules, and didn't even like football. So how did a man who barely knew the sport become a nightmare no defender wanted to touch? Christian Okoye was born in Enugu, Nigeria, the fifth of 7 children. His life was unlike most. When he was just 6 years old, Nigeria was torn apart by a civil war that killed nearly 2 million people, almost the same death toll as the entire Vietnam War. That was his childhood.
As a kid, 5-year-old kid, I'll be walking along the street and I see dead bodies, dead army personnel walking home, and they just succumb to their death.
The war eventually ended, and life slowly stabilized. Around this time, Okoye discovered athletics. While his first love was soccer, as he grew bigger and stronger, he shifted focus to track and field. By 17, he had caught the attention of Patrick Anukwa, a Nigerian state track coach. Under his guidance, Okoye improved rapidly. Within a couple years, he was Nigeria's top discus thrower. It was at this time he would meet Innocent Egbenuke.
Hey, not so fun fact. I used to throw discus. I was terrible at it. Continue.
Another athlete Anukwa was training. Egbenuke earned a scholarship to Azusa Pacific University in 1981, a small Christian school in California. When he arrived, he recommended his friend.
He had told me about his fellow countryman, a guy by the name of Christian Okoye. And because we had had such a great experience with Innocent, I thought, well, let's go talk to the college president about Christian.
Joining Azusa Pacific in 1982, he would emerge as a dominant discus thrower. He graduated as a 17-time NAIA All-American in the discus, shot put, and hammer throws. He even set an African record in the discus. So Okoye was fully expecting to be selected to the Nigerian team for the 1984 Olympics.
When 84 Olympics came around, Nigeria didn't pick me, so I was heavily disappointed, looking for something else to do because I was just sick of it. If I can't go to the Olympics, why be in track and field?
There was no good reason for him to be left off the team. So he thought, what's to say I wouldn't be snubbed again in 1988? He felt he had no choice but to quit and look for another sport. He was convinced to try football. But his first impression wasn't great.
The first time I was told about, Innocent actually invited me to go and watch the school football team play. We got there and I didn't like it. I told him, let's get out of here.
Not only did he find it boring, he had never played. And he was 23 years old, an age most players are in the NFL. Still, he went into Coach Jim Milhone's office to discuss joining the team. He first had to decide what position to play, but Okoye didn't even know what positions existed.
When I walked into the football coach's office, I said, Coach, I want to play football. He said, okay, well, what position do you want to play? I said, well, I'm not really sure. I told him, I said, I saw a highlight on the news the other day. It was like from Super Bowl against the Washington Redskins, Raiders playing against Washington Redskins at the time. And I asked him, I said, who was that? And he says, well, that's Marcus Allen. I said, what position is that? He said, running back. I said, well, that's my position. That's where I want to play.
His coach would essentially have to teach him Football 101, how to take a handoff, how to lower his pads when running, how to secure the ball, and so on. He didn't even know how to put on a uniform. So concepts like knowing when to run and when to block
I
were
want to say, for the people who have not played football, and again, I played very low level. I played at high school. I wasn't serious. But I will say, putting on a jersey with pads is everybody's got their own way, man. Everybody's got their own way. In the NFL, modern day, like they do like some like sticker stuff, or like they stick it to the pads and they put it on. But back before then, and if you're at like a mid to small high school, you're gonna have to figure out a way. We did some crazy things to do
using to him. While running a pass play at practice, Okoye was supposed to block a linebacker if he blitzed. The ball was snapped and the linebacker dropped into coverage. Okoye took off downfield and leveled the linebacker, flattened his own teammate. He was still learning the game, but physically, he was unlike anything coaches had ever seen. 6'1", 260 pounds, could squat over 700 pounds, and he ran a 4.4 40-yard dash.
His combination of size, strength, and speed is uniquely rare and virtually unstoppable.
In just 3 years at Azusa Pacific, he rushed for over 3,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, and averaged over 6 yards a carry. Despite this success, he never fell in love with the game.
Every time I got back to the dorm room, I was very sore, headaches all the time, and it wasn't a thing that I wanted to get involved with.
He tried to quit repeatedly. Football wasn't his passion, but his friends refused to let him walk away.
They can see my size and speed, and they thought I could play. So they encouraged me every time I decided that I'm going to quit. They encouraged me to stay on.
So he kept playing. Empowered by freak athleticism, he led the nation with 187 rushing yards per game. Yet few still believed in him. He had only played 3 seasons of Division II football, so scouts doubted he could play at the pro level.
Division II, okay.
Okoye thought about walking away again, but once more, people pulled him back in.
My head coach, head track and field coach, he would say, "Christian, they told me you're doing so well. Why don't you give it a week?" And then the next thing you know, after playing 2 years, I graduated, and many scouts that came or read about me advised me to go back and play one more year because my eligibility is still on.
So he returned for one final season.
So I went back for my 3rd year, which is my 5th year in college now.
5th year.
And that changed everything.
Another running back dropped out of the Senior Bowl. Okoye was called up to replace him.
Nice.
This would be his opportunity to showcase his talent against a stronger level of competition. What people saw was special. Okoye set a still-standing record of 4 touchdowns in the Senior Bowl in a 42-38 shootout. Now, teams were interested. The Kansas City Chiefs traded a 2nd and 4th round choice to move up 11 spots in the 2nd round to select Okoye. It was as a rookie that Chiefs teammates nicknamed him the Nigerian Nightmare because of his devastating bruising runs. And the Chiefs were in desperate need of a run game. Since 1983, they had the worst rushing attack in the NFL.
Kansas City came, they drafted me, and I went there. It was a totally different story. Everybody was saying Christian Okoye is a project. Didn't play football for very long. I took it up as a challenge.
But labeling Okoye a project wasn't a slight.
Here was a guy that it was like his eyes were wide open. He was kind of naive, just really didn't understand pro football.
Yet in spite of his inexperience, he still had an immediate impact. In his very first NFL game, he ran for 105 yards, including a 43-yard touchdown burst. Despite the Chiefs finishing 4-11 that year, Okoye provided excitement for a team that had struggled for years. He rushed for 660 yards and 3 touchdowns, but more importantly, opponents needed only one encounter with him to realize he was different. However, the 1988 season was a bit of a setback for Okoye. He suffered a broken thumb that limited him to 9 games that year, so he rushed for just 473 yards. The Chiefs again only won 4 games. With that, a new head coach was hired.
Okoye was years behind fundamentally. Just when it seemed that the load was too heavy, even for these massive shoulders, Coach Marty Schottenheimer took over the Chiefs and simply called for Christian's best.
In theory, Schottenheimer was the perfect coach for Okoye. His strategy became known as Marty Ball, a conservative style that favored a strong running game. But Okoye was still dealing with injuries. He suffered a pinched nerve, which forced him to miss the 1989 training camp and preseason. Then he returned for week 1, but only rushed 5 times for 23 yards. He would gain momentum by week 2, rushing for 308 yards over the next 3 weeks, but the Chiefs sat at 1-3 heading into week 5. They were now facing the Seahawks, a playoff team the previous 2 seasons, who sat at 2-2. The Seahawks set the tone early when they returned the opening kickoff for a 97-yard touchdown.
Jefferson runs the ball back and takes it across the
Get up off of him. Ooh, get busy. I'm out of there. I'm out of there. They had no drip back then. Zero drip back then.
Goes 97 yards with the opening kickoff.
Why you caressing me, dog? Why you going on me and caressing me like that?
They carried
dog?
that momentum into the half as they went into the locker room up 16-3. The Chiefs had to make some adjustments. On the first drive of the second half, the Chiefs drove 80 yards as Okoye finished the possession with a 13-yard touchdown run.
Oof.
Following a Seahawks 3-and-out, the Chiefs, led by Okoye rushing for 39 of the 56 yards, got a field goal to bring the score within 3. Seahawks quarterback Dave Craig then threw an interception. The Chiefs took advantage, scored another touchdown, and held on to a 2016 lead to win the game. Okoye finished with 156 yards, a touchdown, and was named AFC Offensive Player of the Week. That was the turning point for the Chiefs.
1989, the most dominant player in the AFC, wore number 35 for the Chiefs. The sport's most disarming smile belied the ferocity of the game's most punishing runner.
While they would miss the playoffs this year, under Schottenheimer, they would go on to reach the playoffs 7 of his 10 years. Okoye also had his breakout season. He won the NFL rushing title, led the NFL in carries, and won the AFC's MVP award. The Nigerian Nightmare had earned his nickname. Contact with Okoye was so punishing, by the fourth quarter, they didn't even want to tackle him anymore.
260, 70-pound guy, man. I'm saying, you mean tell me he runs in the backfield? I'm only 254 myself. I'm saying, you mean tell me I have to run up against this guy who's coming through the line at full speed?
But there were still many things he needed to correct. For one, he ran upright, rather than lowering himself into defenders.
Christian! If it's not in, we're going to go 25 lead. Okay. Get down, get your pads down, and make a hole if there isn't one. All right, make a hole.
That running style made him vulnerable to big hits. The biggest came on September 17th, 1990. Chiefs Broncos. In the Chiefs backfield, the Nigerian Nightmare. In the Broncos secondary, Steve Atwater, a young, hard-hitting safety on the rise.
Okoye up the middle. And he is knocked dead in his tracks. What a hit. Atwater. Wow, what a suck by Atwater.
Atwater's tackle instantly entered NFL lore. The hit was such a big deal because 1, it was a badass, loud hit. 2, nobody ever leveled Okoye like that. 3, it was on Monday night, so everyone saw it. Not to take anything away from Atwater, but Okoye had something else on his mind.
We lost our first child. Of course, he was stillborn. And it was a hard time to go through. Emotionally, I wasn't quite there after we lost our first child. So I was kind of like going with emotion, and that's not where I want to be. So I didn't play like I wanted to play anymore. I wasn't into the game like I wanted to be.
With that, Okoye saw a dip in production. The Chiefs also brought in another running back, Barry Word, which left Okoye splitting the carries. But he persevered, and by 1991, he bounced back with another 1,000-yard Pro Bowl season.
There you go.
But there's a downside to starting football at 23. Yeah. Not only was he still learning, but backs with his playstyle don't get past their early 30s.
Yeah.
Just as quickly as his star rose, it burned out.
Not playing football, growing up, it was really easy for me to walk away. When I started getting injuries here and there, I thought it was time for me to go.
With his heart,
I think that's a good little wrap up there, right? He did about 5-6 seasons, injured knee, things like that. Sorry, that ending there, that kind of made me a little sad there for a little bit. But either way, Christian Okoye, a Nigerian Nightmare, someone that I loved learning about throughout my my years of learning about football and situations like that. So I think that's just dope to see. But hey, man, I appreciate you watching this video. Like the video if you like it, dislike if you don't. Subscribe if you like football content. Continue to be great. We'll see you next time. Peace.